and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Mariah. I go by @HungryRye on all social media platforms, and today I'm going to be going over my August reading wrap up. I'm going to put timestamps for everything, so if there's certain books you want to know my thoughts on, and I'm not going to do spoilers, at least for the fiction books, um, you can just skip through this and see what you want to listen to me yap about. So here is all of the reading stats and what I read in a month and what I thought of the books that I read this month. So I finished 20 books this month, which totaled out to about 5,000 pages. 14 of those 20 books were fiction and 6 were nonfiction. The types of genres that I read the most this month were horror, literary, romance, and memoir. Most of the books that I read are under 500 pages. There was only one that exceeded 500 pages, but for the most part, I try to keep the books that I read around the 300 page mark. I think that's a really good, comfortable amount of pages for me. I don't feel it's too daunting. It's just my favorite length in a book. So without further ado, let's get into the books. I'm going to go through all of them. If I don't have a physical copy, I will put it on the screen so you'll be able to see it. For the reviews, I should preface this. I'm going to do it in a yes, no, maybe sort of format, and I'm just going to give a little bit of insight as to what I liked, what I disliked, what I recommend it. Kind of like that. Because this is the first one, so if this doesn't work well, let me know, and I can change it up, or I can do full-length reviews for different books as I'm reading them, maybe? I don't know. First up, we have Wed to the Wolfman. Now, there's a whole arranged monster mate series that a couple other authors participate in, so I have been reading these periodically throughout the year. This one in particular, no, I rated it 1 star, very rushed, and the romance is non-existent. There's something with these very short novellas where the romance doesn't even have a chance to flourish. It kind of just is spontaneous, and I don't like that. So I would not recommend this. Up next, I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I rated it 3 star. I would say maybe read this if you like thrillers. If you're older, I would say like 30 plus. You may not end up liking it because it is set in like high school. It's not bad though. I really do like how it was written. The pacing of it's done very well. I like the overall structure. It kind of seems like a more juvenile version of House of Leaves, which is one of my favorite books ever. So I like that. Also, it's pretty diverse with the characters, and I enjoyed that. So third on our list is Wed to the Minotaur. It's in the same Ranged Monster Mate series. I rated this one 1 star as well. I would not recommend it. I got so frustrated with the female main character because she is written really dumb, and I did not like that. She made a lot of choices that just didn't make logical sense to me, and it really frustrated me. There also is no plot, and it's also rushed. So that is like my main critique. Not all of them. I think Layla Faye has written a few other books in that series that I did enjoy that did have some sort of substance, some tension that just it flowed a little bit nicer. They're still not great, but it's not bad. Fourth on the list is this book by Eric LaRocca, This Skin Was Once Mine and Other Disturbances. It is a horror anthology. Eric LaRocca is known for writing these really gross body horror books that are like queer. A lot of the stories are queer. I have read several of them. I really like this one. It's short, it's sweet, to the point, that it just explores different horror topics that I like that I don't see in a lot of contemporary horror novels where it's not just rooted in torture porn against women, which I don't like that in my horror novels. But this one, I would say maybe if you really like body horror, check this out. So I rated this 4 stars. I really liked it. So that was my star rating. Up next is Pushin Cushion by Vera Valentine. I rated this 4 stars. If you've never heard of Vera Valentine, she wrote the Unhinged book, which is it's a questionable sentient object romance is like what Vera Valentine does. So it is political commentary. It's funny, it's short, it has erotic elements, but it is not a spicy novel. I think if you're just looking to mix up what you're reading and want to give something a chance, maybe look into it just because it's funny and you know, how often do you get to read about a political candidate, possible future vice president of the United States in this form? It's fun. It's very fun. I read this like children's abridged version of Moby Dick. I've never read Moby Dick. I have wanted to read it since I saw the movie Matilda when I was a kid. I think that if you're going to read classics, personally, I don't mind. Like, I think abridged copies are just nice because you get straight to the point, and if you really end up liking it, you can read the unabridged copy. So I would recommend this. It's a classic. And I'm gonna do a deep dive because I heard that there's a lot of more themes to it that maybe I picked up because I did read the abridged one. So I think I'm gonna try and pick up a copy of the abridged version of this because there's conversation about like colonialism and kind of exploitation of the people on the boat. So I say yes. Plus, it's cute. I'm gonna fix the light. Up next this month, I read two of the PTSD and Nimbuses. Listen, both of them I ended up rating. I rated both of these 4 stars. They're spooky, they're weird, they're horror anthology, although they all of the stories are interconnected as well. Very confusing. I don't know what's happening, but I think I'm okay with that. So these are maybe if you really like horror manga and maybe need a break from like Junji Ito. Up next, we have Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, I believe. I have had a weird relationship with literary fiction, and this one I actually really like because it is essentially like the girly pop version, like queer girly pop version of American Psycho. I rated it 4 stars. I say yes. The female main character of this is like the perfect unlikable main character, and I just liked how it explored being like closeted queer. Oh my god, why is it doing that? There we go. I think that's a little bit better. I really liked it. I would recommend it over American Psycho. I didn't like American Psycho 1 because it just kind of drones on, and I had originally read it last year, and I felt like it could have been at least 100 pages shorter. And I feel like this one succeeded in being shorter, more concise, getting to the point, and also exploring the same themes that were in American Psycho. So I think this is the preferable alternative to American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. I read Thrum this month, and I was very concerned because it was a book talk book that was getting advertised by the author. I rated it 4 stars. And the only reason I rated it 4 stars and not a 5 star is just because I needed it to be longer. If this was 100, 200 pages, shit, this book could have been like 500 pages. Like, it's so beautiful. It's a horror, gothic, sci-fi, but with a romance kind of subplot. It's really interesting. There's mystery. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I just wish it was longer because it hit all of the nails on the head, and it's so different than like most of the alien romances that you see like Ice Planet Barbarians or the Bubble Babes series by Petra Palermo. Like, it's so much different, and I loved it, and I hope that she writes other books like it because it was delightful. I highly recommend it. So yes. Notes on an execution. This is like a 6 star book. This is going to probably be in the top 3 books that I read this year. Excellent. It's haunting and gut wrenching, and it really raises a lot of questions about like morals and how we view like crime and how it occurs, like the material reasons that like bring it to about. So I think if you are somebody that likes police and prison abolition, you support those like philosophies, you'll end up really liking this book. It's very great. I think it'd be a really good book club book to read with other people because there's just so much that's happening. I cannot recommend this book enough. I am going to go get a physical copy and then maybe even like a first edition copy of this book if I can like find it somewhere. Beautiful book. Yes. I also read another classic. I read The Pearl by John Steinbeck. I really liked it. I would recommend it. I rated it a 4 star. I think it's interesting. I really like the overarching storyline that's here. It's short, and for being like a novella, it's great. I wish more books that I read that are advertised as novellas were more fleshed out in the way that this is. There's a twist in here I did not see coming. It's great if you were somebody. I'm a little concerned about his politics because I think he might be the American version of George Orwell. I need to research that more. I have Grapes of Wrath and The Moon is Down. There's a few other books that I want to read that are written by him because I just know that he's such an influential author. alongside like Upton Sinclair. So I'm gonna read some more and then I will completely do and then maybe I'll do a video on him and his pieces work as like a separate, like more nuanced video in the future. Not right now. I gotta figure out the fucking lighting. A book that I read that was I read two books, two fiction books that were super disappointing, and I'm going to put them in now. Incidents Around the House is a horror book perspective of a child, and she has this entity that is following her around. I saw it on Horror Book Talk. I spend a lot of time on Horror Book Talk because I really like horror books. I would say maybe it's if you really like horror books, I would say no, but if you are somebody that just maybe is looking for a spooky Halloween read, you could read it. I just felt like there was a lot of instances in this book that just didn't make any sense. I wasn't quite on board with what the adults surrounding this child, like the decisions they were making, seemed really questionable. I personally would have made them, so I just got frustrated and also, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite. It was okay, which is frustrating because I know a lot of people really liked it. So that's just my 2 cents on it. The Demon Court. This was the longest fiction book that I read this month. No, it's in hindsight, I would probably end up going back through and rereading this because I got so frustrated. I don't know how it can be so long, over 500 pages, and there is no plot at all. Like, there's nothing to move the romance along because it is supposed to be like, I think romantasy. The romance is front and center, and there is no plot. I didn't like it. I was really frustrated because I really like the author's books, Whispers of the Deep and Song of the Abyss. This is not it. So if you like those two books, do not read this book. I think it's a waste of time. But that's just those are just what my thoughts are on it. Now we can move on to the nonfiction books that I read this month. I read Open Book by Jessica Simpson. It's her memoir. I really liked it. So if you really like celebrity memoirs, or maybe you're a millennial, I think you will enjoy it just so you can get some insight on Jessica Simpson as a person and what the like early 2000s being like a pop star and also a movie star was like. I think you would enjoy it, especially since her reality TV show is kind of what kicked off and really blew up reality TV shows as a whole, in my opinion. That's just how I view it. It's very well written. I like how she is just so kind and caring, and she's a good old like country gal. She might be a conservative. If she wasn't exploiting her workers, I think this would be a 5-star book. But she, to my knowledge, does not run a worker co-op for her clothing brand, and that's frustrating. So I only gave it like a 4-star. I also read The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. This is a 5-star book, maybe even more. I was viscerally angry by this book. I have grown up loving Britney Spears. Um, so being able to understand like what the culture, like pop culture was like, her dealing with the paparazzi was one of the most interesting elements to this book and her life because we always hear about the conservatorship. I didn't know just how bad paparazzi were for her and other celebrities because I know it wasn't just Britney Spears, but yeah, it's very good. It made me just really angry by the time I got done with it. I've never been so angry, and I'm also not somebody that like forms parasocial relationships with celebrities like that, but I am also biased and I love Britney Spears. So I did a reread of Freedom is a Constant Struggle, Ferguson, Palestine, and the Foundations of a Movement by Angela Davis. I decided to do a reread of this so I could do it with one of my like comrades book clubs. And it was really nice to reread. I ended up rating it a little bit higher. I just for Angela Davis specifically, I like her more academic work than I prefer these kind of speech and essay compilations. It's a very good kind of like baby's first intro into understanding settler colonialism and the connections between South African apartheid state and BDS as a movement. I think this is really excellent to get people in the mindset, and I think it's more palatable than just throwing something like Settlers or Wretched of the Earth at them. So this would be a really good intro book to give people who are maybe like rad libs. I got this zine, Solidarity Networks and Emergency Survival, a practical guide for surviving the collapse of an empire with others. Very short. I really enjoyed the Dean Spade mutual aid book, and I think this complements it really well. Very concise, to the point. just talking about like the difference between community and solidarity networks, what we need to do for disasters and the collapsing of society, like if revolution is to occur here, and just some other really important tidbits that I liked. Very good. I think these would go really well in those little libraries that you see around town. Yes, I recommend. Up next, I have Stiff by Mary Roach. I bought this book back in 2016 or 2017 when I wanted to go to med school. I had originally started going to college because I wanted to go to med school, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I did a reread of, or I restarted it. I did audiobook this time, and I absolutely love this book. It reignited this love and like morbid things that I have always had, and it's just a beautifully written book. I like it because it's more journalistic in nature because Mary Roach is a journalist. She has a really great writing style, and it's funny and super informative. The bits about like airplane FDC, I can't remember, like the airlining commission. I will put it on the screen. Them and like Boeings and like safety precautions around it and how they value passenger seats and determine what's like profitable versus what's safe is so interesting. There's just a lot of really good stuff in here that I didn't know and I really enjoyed. And I think as a Marxist, I just got a lot of joy out of reading this and being able to apply like my own lens to this because I can just see like, oh, gobble it up. It's delicious. The last book that I read this month was Hey Hun. No, I would not recommend this. It was too long. It reads more memoir than academic, and I had just finished Cultish when I wanted to start Hey Hun because in Cultish they talk about multi-level marketing schemes, and I thought it would be really interesting to read a book about more about that. I thought it'd be really interesting to read a book that was just centered around multi-level marketing and learn more about it. And I just didn't really feel like it did that. I also thought it was super strange how she talks about like capitalism, white supremacy, feminist patriarchy, and all of this stuff. She talks about like the exploited labor of like mothers, but then ends up at the end being almost apolitical and not choosing a side because she says it's not productive, and then selling her version of AA that she worked or like helped invent. It was really sus. I think she's more of a liberal, which is fine, but don't go if you are like somebody like me that's like pretty principled and understanding of like capitalism and feminism. I don't think you're going to be able to extract a whole lot out of this unless you just know nothing about like multi-level marketing schemes. Then you might enjoy it. I also wasn't super big on like the style of her writing and storytelling. But yeah, those are all the books I read. Hopefully this video is salvageable, and also you can hear, I'm sorry, this is my first time using this camera and it says it records in 4K. I just don't know why it keeps changing the color every time I move stuff around. I'll figure out the lighting for next time, but this is where we're at. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. If anyone has any questions, comments, concerns about any of the books I read or want to know more about them or have books that they want me to read and review, let me know. I will happily do it, whether it is here, TikTok, Instagram, Threads. I don't really use Twitter. I do have a Twitter. But thank you for watching, and I will be posting at least wrap-ups on this account and some more stuff. But thank you. Thank you for your time.